Hello everyone and welcome to another random video on the internet. Today we'll be doing one of these unscripted videos yet again, and this is gonna be more of a discussion than anything too serious, you know, like the power scaling or what ifs that I usually do. This is just me coming up with an idea that I think is pretty fun. So what we're gonna be doing today is ranking everybody in the Monster Association raid by how much they contributed to their respective team. So for example, we're gonna be ranking like all the heroes and all the monsters that did something, you know, like to qualify for this list you have to have at least like a few panels dedicated to you, you can't just be some random fodder monster in the background. We have 49 different characters to get through, so we're gonna be going through these rather quickly. And yeah, I think the premise is pretty self-explanatory. I will say this definitely is not a power ranking, this is just a contribution list, like how much each of these characters did for their respective team. And I will say power does play into it a little bit, because the more powerful you are, the more you can generally do in a series focused on combat. There's gonna be a little bit of subjectivity, so don't take the rankings too seriously, but this video will be splitting the characters into tiers, so within the tiers I think it's debatable who did more than who. Starting off, in the bottom tier we have 3 placements, and this is the hurt their own team tier. This is like the characters who they were so bad and so like beyond useless that they actually dragged their team down instead of helping at all. So number 49, dead last, the award for being the most atrocious and useless characters in this arc goes to Nariki's Private Squad. I know this is technically more than one character, but I didn't really want to rank all of them as separate characters, so let's just get into it. They get captured like instantly upon going in. They get mind controlled, and they have to be saved constantly by everybody around them. Like, they just drag everybody down. We have the disciples of Atomic Samurai having to go out of their way to save them. We have a My Mask having to go out of his way to fight them, and he wanted to kill them, which, honestly, he should have, and the redraw for this is, I don't really like. But anyways, they should have died, but okay, they lived. So what did they do? What did they get? What did the extra screen time do for them? They helped take out a couple fodder monsters, which, okay, doesn't really make up for you getting mind controlled and going against your own team. And then they get taken out of commission. Ian has to go out of his way to sacrifice himself to protect them, and if it wasn't for Big God, he would have died because of them. And, yeah, what else do? They get up on the surface, and then all they do after that is serve as hostages for the monsters, for Fear Ugly, for Gums, you know, they just distract the heroes, and they force Pig God out of the battle for a while, because Pig God has to go out of his way to swallow them, and like Tank Top Master throws him out of the battlefield then. So, yeah, they literally forced an S-class hero who was very capable of fighting out of the battlefield. Like, that's the definition of hurting their own team. They hurt the hero's chances. All this versus eliminating a couple monsters, like, nah, these guys are bottom tier, like, no question. And number 48, Vakuma, the elephant monster, he killed his own team and then powered up Uri and died. That's all he did, like, he hurt his team and then died. Moving on. 47, this one I debated about quite a bit, but I put Clown Centipede here. Because he could have either gone in this or in the did something tier. Okay, let's see. He came out, he powered Garo up, and he had to blackmail him into taking any damage whatsoever, and then he died. Like, the only thing he did was put Metal Bat out of commission, and for that I was going to put him in the did something tier, but Metal Bat at that point wouldn't have really even been useful at all afterwards, because now the only opponent left is Garo, and Saitama's the one fighting him, so like, in the end, taking Metal Bat out here didn't really contribute anything. It's far too little, far too late. Clown Centipede, his objective was to beat the fist that has turned against God. Did not accomplish that, didn't even beat Garo. He powered Garo up, he powered his enemy up and then died. That's all he accomplished, and he took out an S-class hero, but that was way too little, way too late, so... You know, I could put him in the did something tier, but my bias just does not let me do that. Like, I'm not compromising. Now, in the useless tier, number 46, we have Bug God. Now, okay, before the raid, he did beat up Garo. Or, you know, with Royal Ripper, they beat up Garo, but this is during the raid. And during the raid, all he does is get exploded by Darkshine, so that's like kind of the definition of useless. He does not do anything aside from dying, so just kinda had to leave him here. 45, Evil Eye. The guy that has like top 5 coolest designs in the entire series and should have definitely been a cadre. I'm going to die on that hill, okay? Like, he should have been a cadre, but he wasn't, and he pissed off Tatsumaki. So, number 44, I've got Pure Blood. Again, one of those, like, monsters that are kinda there, like, they have a cool design and cool fight, but, like, all he did was kill a bunch of his own team and then die. However, he did keep Zombie Man preoccupied for a while. Like, it's implied that that was a very long battle. So he did keep an S-Class hero occupied and unable to do other things for quite a while. So, yes, he killed a bunch of his own team, but then he also saw an S-Class hero, so, like, I guess you could maybe put him in the did something tier, but overall I'd say in the useless tier is pretty good for him. Number 43, Devil Longhair. Now, this guy, the monster with the long hair, all he did was fight the disciples a bunch, and keep them preoccupied for a bit, and then die to them, so this is kind of a similar deal to Pureblood's case. However, I do believe that in this case, Devil Longhair at least whittled the disciples down a little bit, whereas with Zombie Man, he just came out like he did not spend any stamina at all to defeat Pureblood because he has infinite stamina. Whereas Devil Longhair actually whittled his competition down and, like, at least, you know, hurt them a little bit, so I put him above, but these could really be interchangeable. And number 42, G5. Now, what he did was capture Nariki's private squad, which they were useless anyways, like, whatever. He prevented a fight from breaking out over Tario between Royal Ripper and the lizard monster. He did that by throwing another monster to get eaten by the lizard monster, so he killed his own teammate, but he also prevented a fight, so, you know, I guess that's something. Then he confronted Child Emperor with the hostage with Waganma, and then just let them escape. Well, he didn't let them, but, you know, they escaped from him, so that doesn't really accomplish anything. And then he occupied Atomic Samurai for a few pages before getting no-diffed, and, he also tried to get rid of Sekingar on the surface and also failed, got destroyed by Genos, so really cool design and really cool battle with Atomic before the redraw, but post-redraw he just doesn't really do much, so I think he's the top of the useless tier. Now moving on to the did something tier, number 41, Rhino Wrestler. He occupied the surface team for a little bit, and then he gave them a bit of a hard time and died to Atomic. That's kind of it. He could maybe go in the useless tier, but he did do a number on the surface team, like he did almost kill a couple of them, and he did keep them preoccupied a little bit, allowed Gyro to, like, observe the battlefield a little bit longer, so I think he deserves to be in 41. Number 40, we have our first cadre, Gums. Gums is super unfortunate, like, why was this guy a cadre when Evil Eye wasn't? I will never get over this, but... Okay, regardless of that, he killed a bunch of his own team before the battle, he was eating his own team, he wrecked Pig God, which is good, but Pig God recovered very fast and was still able to combat him later on, so it did do something. That's why he's not in the useless tier, but he didn't really do more than that. He kept Pig God and Tank Top Master on the turrets on the surface for a little bit as well, and then he failed to digest Tank Top Master in time before he got rescued, and then he got bullied by Genos and Bang. And then he died to his own teammate. He tried to kill his own teammate too, by the way, like, they both kind of antagonized each other there, so, like, yeah, Fur Ugly kind of started it with, you know, his punch being redirected by Bang, but he still tried to kill his own teammate and then died as a result, so overall, his really only accomplishment is bullying Pig God a little bit, but Pig God recovered very fast afterwards, and it didn't really accomplish anything for his team. Number 39, maybe a little bit of a controversial one, Amai Mask. If this was the webcomic, he would definitely be higher, but in the manga, I get the feeling that Murata doesn't really like him, because all he does is beat some fodder, and then help take down Doas, alongside the disciples, then he gets bullied by Ugly, then the most useful thing he did is he helps inspire Darkshine to get back into the fight on the surface, when he gives him this whole, like, pep talk, like, aren't you frustrated with being useless, speaking from experience, because he was kinda useless here, like, that's the whole narrative of him in the Sark. And then he folded like an omelet against Ugly the second time, and then he did nothing afterwards. Like, the biggest thing he does is he helps inspire Darkshine to keep moving forward. I guess he deserves to be in the did something tier, but, like, it's really unfortunate because I think he could be a very cool character, but he just kinda got done dirty. Number 38, Doas. She got wrecked by Amai Mask and the Disciples, then got wrecked by Bang Bomb and Fubuki. However, she did trick them into confronting Rover, and she also got hostages into the Monster Association hideout, which made the heroes, like, more pressed to act, you know, more difficult, harder for the heroes to do stuff, specifically for Bang, Bomb, and Fubuki. So, she lured them into a very unfavorable position of having to face down a cadre, and she also got people in there to make it harder for them, so I do think that she did something. Like, again, could go lower than Gums and Amai Mask, but at the same time, like, she did do some stuff that I think does deserve a little bit of recognition. 37, another cadre, Neon. Injured Puri, failed to injure Saitama, and then toyed with the Surface Squad and died to Drive Knight. There's not really much else to add. Again, all she really does is just injure Puri Puri prisoner, and then run away from him. And then she failed, or he, I don't know, I think it's a he, maybe, I don't know, failed to injure Saitama, and then what, like, toyed with the Surface Squad, didn't kill a single one of them. However, it did put a bunch of them out of commission, but the Surface Squad, let's be honest, isn't really a relevant force at that point in the arc, so yeah. And then I guess it also depleted Drive Knight's power reserves, which is good, but at the same time, it didn't really matter in the end because Drive Knight did also come back later to do more stuff. Now number 36, another animal-themed cadre, and okay, I'm sorry, but I did put Overgrown Rover this low. In terms of power, he's an absolute beast, don't get me wrong, but what does he do during the raid? He gets dogged on by Saitama, pun intended, and then he refuses to fight him again when Orochi asks him to, which is a smart decision, and then he occupies Bangabon and Fubuki, and that's it. Like, that's literally all he does. He fights them for a little bit, and then sits down when they tell him to because of Saitama's training, and then it's like nothing else. He shrinks down and only appears after the arc is over, so it's kind of shocking how little he actually did during the raid. Like, imagine how cool it would have been to see him up on the surface, like fighting some people like Darkshine maybe and stuff like that. Like, that would have been pretty cool. You know, the ultimate tank battle, Darkshine and Rover, like the cadre tank versus the hero tank, you know, like that could have been fun, but we didn't really get that, unfortunately. Probably wouldn't have been entirely fair for the hero since they already had a really rough time, but yeah, Rover kinda has to go this low on this particular list, unfortunately. Next up, 35, Metal Knight. It wasn't even in the arc, refused to fight, however, he decontaminated everyone from the radiation at the end of the fight from Cosmic Garo, so if he didn't do that, I don't know, maybe like there could have been some issues later down the line with the hero's health. And he also fixed Bang's back, so that's also another thing. But this is all after the arc, so like I definitely cannot put him higher. He wasn't even a participant, but I did feel the need to mention him. And again, he could go a little bit higher, a little bit lower, it doesn't really matter, but like just the general placements in these tiers like can be argued around. Number 34, Moomin Rider. He assisted with evacuations on the sidelines, and he also got Tank Top Master back into the battlefield. That's a pretty big deal, because of how much Tank Top Master does later. So Moomin Rider, I think, does deserve partial credit, because he is the one who got Tank Top Master to the battlefield. He pedaled that bike like there was no tomorrow, and he did assist the heroes in evacuations and stuff like that, so I do think he deserves to be in the Did Something tier as well. Number 33, Zombie Man. Look, he is extremely cool, but he has like 2 full chapters of screen time in this arc maybe? And he takes out Pure Blood, who could have been an issue for some of the heroes perhaps. And then he also kills a bunch of fodder and beats some robots. And probably the biggest thing, honestly, is he pushes Child Emperor out of the way of Homeless Emperor's initial blast on the surface and saves him like that, so that's kind of all he does, unfortunately. He also pins down Homeless Emperor, though. That's another thing. So, with that, he did force Homeless Emperor into a position where he died by God's hand. And I do think that Homeless Emperor wouldn't have made it past, like, this point anyway. Like, Flashy Flash would have probably blitzed and killed him when he appeared on the surface. But I will say it is still a pretty big deal, so I think Zombie Man definitely could go near the top of this tier as well. Number 32, Bushi Drill and Akametachi, the 2 disciples of Atomic Samurai. We'll get into Ion later, don't worry, but for now we're only talking about these 2. So they killed a bunch of fodder monsters, and then they got an assist kill against Devil Longhair, who was a demon level threat. Then they also assisted in the defeat of Does and the rescue of Nariki Squad. They saved lives, which you know, those lives weren't really worth saving, but they did it anyway. Like, they're good people. And they also kind of saw through the plan that My Mask had to kill them, and they sort of intervened, so, you know, they saved them. And then they fought off Evil Natural Water for a bit, but went down for the count. This one I could definitely see being lower. Like, I do think Zombie Man, in retrospect, probably could have been higher, but they did do something. Now, number 31, Evil Natural Water. So what he does is he wrecks the disciples, he wrecks Child Emperor and drains him of his last gadgets, but Child Emperor at this point wasn't really all that dangerous because he had lost like all of his main stuff. So, well, he does take an S-class hero out of the battle like fully basically, because now Child Emperor runs out of gadgets completely. He does fail to kill him, and he does sort of fail to kill the disciples as well. On the surface, he occupies the Ion and Atomic Samurai for a bit, and he almost kills the Ion, but then he gets popped by Darkshine. Kind of unfortunate fate. And then he gets wrecked by Garo, and returns as Ocean Water, hits Garo once, and dies to Saitama, so... He did do something, but like considering, like, the full picture of the arc, he really only whittled down Child Emperor, and like damaged Garo a little bit, and that's kind of it. That's all he really did. And I guess he took out the Disciples for the count, so that's also something. Number 30, we have Phoenix Man. Now, again, really cool character, but sort of in that same syndrome of only has one fight. He occupies Child Emperor and exhausts all of his reserves, or most of them. Most importantly, Brave Giant, which definitely could have given some of the cadres a big run for their money. He does contribute pretty greatly. He basically takes an S-Class hero mostly out of the equation. Like, Child Emperor does rejoin the fight, but he's never the same after this, so... I do think that he does deserve to be up here. Now 29, in a very similar boat, Hellfire and Gale, their duo, so they occupied Flash for a bit, and that alone wouldn't really get them this high, but during the battle, they did make Flash lose Child Emperor's communication device, which also had the map of the Monster Association, and they made Flashy Flash get lost in the base. You know, they basically took Flashy Flash out of the equation for a while because he was just running around completely blind in the dark. So, and I don't need to tell you that Flashy Flash is definitely killing some cadres if he's able to get to them. So just this alone actually does get them pretty high. And they also did do some work on Brave Giant in the Phoenix Man battle, so that's also something. Now moving on to 28, Spring Mustachio. So what he does is, again, could go a little bit lower, but I did place him here. He assisted in the battle against Black S, and he protected Nichiren against Homeless Emperor's blasts. And Nichiren at that point somehow was still alive, even though half of his body was melted. And Nichiren is able to come back later, so he did save a life. And he did take out a bunch of Black S, so again, I do think he deserves to be here, maybe a little bit lower. Number 27, the Council of Swordsmen, also in that very similar boat. They assisted against Black S, however they also have in their record a failed attempt to take out Fear Ugly. However, one of them saved Atomic Samurai from Ugly Sponge, and one of them saved Spring Mustachio from Ugly Sponge. So together, as a whole, they assisted against Black S, and they saved 2 people, including Atomic Samurai, so I would definitely say that they do deserve a spot in the Did Something tier. And now 26, the top of the tier, the Surface team of heroes, A, B class, C class heroes, you know, all the jazz. So what they did is they helped clear out a bunch of low-level monsters at the start, and all the way through the arc they were killing fodder monsters on the surface. They sealed off the entrances to the Monster Association as well to make escape harder for the monsters, and they did their best to protect Waganma from Neon. They kept him occupied for a bit, and for long enough for Drive Knight to get there, so I do believe that they definitely did put in work for their power level, because, again, they killed a bunch of monsters, prevented monsters from escaping, and they occupied Neon long enough for an S-Class hero to arrive and save the hostage. So I will say that they did do something. The biggest thing is they became hostages toward the end. That's like their only drawback. Like, you know, in the helicopter and stuff, but that would have gone down regardless, because, like, you know, Waganma was there, Tario was there, so, like, it's not really their fault. But I will say, 2 of these guys actually do make it into the helped substantially tier. And these 2, at number 25, moving up to the helped substantially tier, are One-Shotter and Gearspur. They put in a lot of work against the rando monsters in Neon, and... like, they basically did all that the others did, but they also helped Garo escape Sage Centipede's grasp. It sounds ridiculous, but they blitzed, you know, One-Shotter blitzed Sage Centipede 13 times when he was trying to kill Garo, and stalled him long enough for Garo to get out of his grasp. And who knows, maybe Garo, in the prone position that he was in, maybe he would have taken serious damage, who knows? So... and Gearspur helped One-Shotter C in that instance, so that's why he's here, so... these guys, these like tiger level people, as one might say, they assisted in the defeat of an above dragon level threat, which is hilarious, and they definitely deserve a spot here. Number 24, a Homeless Emperor. This one's a really unfortunate case because I wish he'd done more, man. I wish, but like, when looking at the things he does, He bullies Zombie Man and takes him out of the battle for a bit, occupies him. He blows Zombie Man up on the surface again taking him out of the battle for a while. And then he fails to kill Child Emperor, because a Dogman drone somehow blocked a Spirit Bomb apparently. He pretty much like permanently takes Child Emperor out of the fight. Like, Child Emperor doesn't do a single thing afterwards, but he wouldn't have done anything regardless. At this point he was out of gadgets. And then he assaults Tatsumaki in the sky, which is good, it further fatigues her. However, he does nothing while Black S occupies the heroes. And then he wrecks Ugly, which is friendly fire, and then assaults Iain, Spring Mustachio, and Atomic Samurai, but specifically holds back not to kill them. So he could have had Atomic Samurai and 2 swordsmen in his kill list, but just didn't. If he'd done that, if he just hadn't held back, he would definitely be in the upper tiers, but he just held back, and that just holds him back on the list as well. Then he gets caught lacking by Atomic, almost dies to him, but gets saved by Golden S, and then gets outplayed by King and snatched by Zombie Man and then killed by God. So unfortunately, I really can't say that he did all that much. However, he did keep an S-Class hero occupied, he did take a couple S-Class heroes out on the surface for a little while, and he did overall definitely help put a lot of pressure on the heroes on the surface early on. So I do think he deserves to be in this tier on the help substantially tier list, but, you know, just kinda not higher than that. Number 23, another pick that's really puzzling, we have Bomb. So, Bomb, one of the strongest people on the hero side, but all he does is kill some fodder, then fights off Rover for a bit, assists against Jetarochi, assists in healing Tank Top Master, which is good, very big thing, the biggest thing he's done, and then holds Garo off until Bang gets there, and also saves Fubuki from Garo. So, these are quite a few things. He did save Tank Top Master and Fubuki, and he did a bunch of assists with Bang, but overall, like, for someone of his caliber, it would definitely be expected that he would do more. And speaking of caliber, and speaking of people who, like, seem like they should have done more but just didn't, number 22, Drive Knight. Again, a character that's kind of barely in the arc, but when he does come on screen, he's always doing something extremely useful. So first of all, he kills Neon, in the process also saving everybody on the surface, including Waganma, the hostage, who was pretty much like one of the main focuses of the operation. And he is one of the only people to actually kill a cadre one-on-one during this arc. Then he also kept Jetarochi occupied while the S-Class was planning their moves, which is a big deal because Jetarochi would have went for Tatsumaki if he hadn't done that, so Tatsumaki at that point was unconscious, and Genos wasn't at her side yet, he wasn't assisting her yet. So I do think Drive Knight definitely deserves some credit for keeping her occupied all by himself for a while Tatsumaki got time to recover, Genos got time to recover, and the heroes made a plan of action. Now number 21, again somebody who feels like he should have done way more but just kind of got relegated to the sidelines, Flashy Flash. Again, one of the strongest people on the hero side. Okay, he does do quite a bit. He kills some fodder, not that impressive, but he kills Hellfire and Gale, who are extremely impressive monsters who would have definitely given most in the S-Class a very hard time. And I do think they're very underrated in the community. That is definitely something that's very worth keeping in mind, because Hellfire and Gale could have caught some bodies. And we see with the ninjas, like Sonic kills people, Hellfire and Gale kill people, Flashy Flash kills people, like they wouldn't have toyed around nearly as much. So I do think that Flashy Flash did prevent a few bodies from dropping with this. And then he killed some more fodder with Saitama, and then lost to Garo and Platinum. The argument could be made that he maybe could go below Atomic Samurai, but I'll say, like, I do believe that the elimination of Hellfire and Gale is big enough to warrant placing him this high. Number 20, Atomic Samurai. So what he does is, again, kills a bunch of fodder, kills G5, which is good. He saves Tario from Black S. He's chasing Tario, and Atomic Samurai intervenes and saves Tario, so that's a big point. He gets sandbagged by Black S, unfortunately, that's where the nickname comes from, and that's kinda bad, but then he initiates the assault on Jetarochi. He is the very first hero to suggest that everybody team up on Jetarochi, and he also tried to jump to her, like, into the sky a few times, but couldn't. He was the first one taking initiative on the surface, basically. And he also assisted against Jetarochi with his, like, concentrated atomic slashes, held off Evil Natural Water on the surface for a bit, and then assisted against Black S. He beat up Black S without cutting him and, you know, stuff like that. However, he failed against Ugly. He did save everyone from Homeless Emperor temporarily, but all that really resulted in the end, was pissing off Golden S and just sort of prolonging the battle long enough for King to get there, so I will say he did do quite a bit, but for someone of his caliber, it could be expected that he could have done more. Now number 19, another S-Class hero. Lots of S-Class heroes in a row here, except Bomb, but you know, like, he's basically an S-Class hero, like, you know, de facto S-Class hero, whatever. Number 19, Darkshine. Again, feels like he should have done more, but kinda just didn't. He kills Bug God, kills some more fodder, almost takes out Garo, but plays around at first, and that allows Garo to power up and get close to him in power and shatter Darkshine mentally, which is a big blow to Darkshine. He does recover temporarily and assist against Jetarochi, which is good, and he also saves the Ion from Evil Natural Water, and temporarily takes it out of the battle. And then he goes on to basically carry the battle against Black S. Like he himself says, I'm shining brighter than everybody. Black S is pointing out Darkshine as like the biggest problem, like they'll never be able to hurt him and stuff like that. So Darkshine definitely does carry that battle until he gets barbecued by Ugly, and then gets sunned by Golden S, and then spends the entire rest of the arc curled up or unconscious, mentally shattered. So he does put in work. He saves a bunch of people, assists against Jetarochi, carries the Black Ass battle, take Evil Natural Water out of the battle for a while, but overall, for his caliber, I definitely would have expected him to do more. Now, number 18. This one might be a little bit controversial. Why is this guy above all the other, like, S-Class heroes so far? But I've got Ion. So he does everything that we already covered the Disciples do. He gets a bunch of assist kills, but he also protects Nariki's squad during Tatsumaki's lifting of the Monster Association, which is pretty, like, you know, he's saving lives. They're useless lives, but he's still saving lives. And he goes out of his way to, like, sacrifice himself for them, basically, and protects them from debris long enough for Pig God to come in and save all of them. He did put in his best efforts in that field, and he does all this without a shield. Like, he's blocking all the debris, trying to reach out to Tatsumaki, you know, doing all this stuff. And then, when on the surface, he tries to help a Eye Mask in his degrading mental state, which, you know, moral assist. And then he later fights Evil Natural Water for a little bit, and then protects Atomic Samurai from Homeless Emperor until Atomic Samurai can pull out the Sunblade, which is a very big thing. He protected Atomic Samurai's life until Atomic Samurai could pull out the plot sword, I mean the Sunblade. Now, joking, I do very much enjoy the Sunblade, but until he pulls out the Sunblade and gets to put in work against Homeless Emperor, so he did protect Atomic Samurai there. And then he also assisted against Black S quite a bit, so yeah, overall, Ion, for his caliber of fighter, he puts in a ton of work. I definitely do think that he deserves a bunch of recognition. He could maybe go below some of the S-Class heroes, but I don't know, dude. Like, for his tier of power, he did so much more than they did in comparison, so I do want to put him above. Now number 17, Metal Bat. He joins the party very late, but he stays up until the very end. So, first of all, he gets King back into the battlefield, because King took Tario out of the battlefield, and then Metal Bat basically slingshots himself and King back into the battle, so he's partially responsible for everything that King does, which we'll get to King later as well. Then he took out some Black S trying to escape the battle, but he missed one single cell. The biggest thing is obviously he helped Garo against Sage Centipede. He saved the helicopter on a couple of occasions, saving innocent kids and heroes, and he also informed Garo where to toss the helicopter to safely get it out of the battle, and this all allowed Garo to focus on the Sage Centipede fight and kill him, and he also powered up Garo via the resonance, and he annoyed Sage Centipede quite a bit. Yeah, Metal Bat did put in a lot of work, and, you know, as frustrated as I might be with the whole Sage debacle, I do think that he definitely deserves recognition for the work that he put in. Number 16, Puri Puri Prisoner. Now, shocker, I know, Puri above Flashy Flash and Darkshine and Atomic Samurai, but hear me out. So he killed a bunch of fodder monsters, he killed Vakuma, he scared off Neon, which, you know, forced Neon out of the battle temporarily, until he ran into Saitama and then completely bailed. And then he also survived Garo, which, okay, not very useful, but he did survive Garo. And one negative for him is he put Atomic Samurai out of commission temporarily. Via his creepy antics, he made Atomic Samurai faint, and that's bad, but it didn't really result in anything too major, so... But here we get into the good stuff. So, he assists the heroes against Jetarochi, that's first of all. Then he actually saves Child Emperor. Child Emperor would have suffocated underground after Homeless Emperor's explosion if Puri Puri Prisoner didn't go out of his way to dig into the ground to help him and to search for him, and he finds Child Emperor and saves him, gets him back to the surface, which is a very big thing, because Child Emperor will get to him later, but also on top of that, he shields Genos, Child Emperor, and Tatsumaki from a swing from Platinum S. all of those guys at that point were super weak and super tired, that swing might have actually killed them. Like, maybe not Genos, but Tatsumaki might have actually died, so Puri Prisoner going out of his way to do that, to shield them, and taking the brunt of the impact did result in a very good result in the long term for the heroes. Also, another point for Puri is that he did help inspire Darkshine alongside of My Mask and a couple others as well, so he probably had the biggest part in inspiring Darkshine to keep going, and that is a pretty big point because Darkshine was obviously very helpful later on in the arc, so that definitely goes to him. So, all in all, again, for his tier of power, he did so much, like compared to some of these other heroes. You could make an argument that he might go lower than somebody like Darkshine, but overall, I do think that, you know, he did way more than Darkshine when it comes to, like, what they were capable of doing, like how much potential he had to live up to in this arc, so I do think they're in the same tier, but I personally put Puri above just because of that. And now, to round off the helped substantially tier, we have Tank Top Master at number 15. He assists with evacuations early on, and then he also assists against Jetrochi, and he assists probably the most, because he tosses the building into the sky, which gets everybody to reach Sairochi, so without Tank Top Master, nobody could have even reached her, so that's a very big assist right there. He also tosses boulders at her and stuff like that to assist even further. Then he also fought Gums and Ugly a little bit, and he threw Pigod with the hostages out of the battlefield and provided enough of a distraction to get them out safely, which is a pretty big thing. However, this is where he gets mangled and he gets in the way of the fight with the Black S, because he forces Bang and Genos to carry him away from the battle. However, that is balanced out by the fact that once healed, he assists in carrying a bunch of the heroes out of the battlefield. He rounds them all up, he carries them, he saves them from a bunch of the, like, environmental disasters happening around them, you could say. And, yeah, that's also a pretty big thing, because that list includes Tatsumaki, includes King, includes Darkshine, Fubuki, so, yeah, he definitely does a lot to assist them. So again, could go a little bit lower, but personally I do have him here because he does a ton for his tier. Now moving on into the second to last tier, the Vital tier. The teams would just not have been the same at all without these characters on them, so to start us off at number 14, Fuhrer Ugly, the surprising MVP of the monster side, to be honest. So he folded a My Mask like a lawn chair twice, and took him out of the battle completely, both times. He wrecked the Nariki squad, he tortured them, which is good. He put Tank Top Master out of commission for a while, and made heroes like Genos and Bang spend energy and time to try to save him. He wrecked a fatigued Tatsumaki and took it out of the battle as well for the time being. He kinda got bullied by Bang and antagonized Gums and killed Gums, but in that, he became vomited Fuhrer Ugly, and his menace level just went up from there. So he kills some of Black S, which is friendly fire, but he slaughters the Council of Swordsmen, he kills 2 of them and somehow doesn't kill Nichirin. I don't know how, but, you know, he survived. But he is I kid you not, the only monster in this entire arc to get any notable kills. Technically, one of the fodder Nariki squad guys dies earlier, but like that's not really counted. Like, let's be honest, that doesn't really count as a kill. That does, at least not a substantial, significant kill by any means. So Fuhrer Ugly is actually the only one to get kills in this arc from the monster side, which is kind of crazy. And he melts Atomic Samurai's blade, forcing him out of the battle for the rest of the arc, because of the fatigue that comes from Atomic Samurai having to use the Sunblade afterwards, and not having a sword in general to fight with, because he can't use the Sunblade in general, like he only can use it in one short burst. And yeah, he doesn't have a weapon to fight with later in the arc, so he takes out Atomic Samurai, and he puts Darkshine out of commission for the entire rest of the arc. So just to sum up, Fuhrer Ugly gets rid of a My Mask, gets rid of Tank Top Master temporarily, gets rid of Tatsumaki temporarily, gets rid of Darkshine, Atomic Samurai, and 2 Council of Swordsmasters guys. This is a legendary run, like holy, like Fuhrer Ugly definitely deserves to be this high, maybe even higher to be honest, like he could have gone at like number 12 maybe. But speaking of, number 13, I put Fubuki. Again, shocker, but let me explain. So first of all, she reinforced Bang and Bomb, helping them both remain unharmed against Rover, and helping them to later be of use in the surface battle via doing so, because, you know, if they got injured against Rover to any substantial extent, they wouldn't have been as effective on the surface, so she does that, and she shields them from, like, the blast and so on. Then she also takes care of Doess, and prevents her from getting away, and presumably kills her, but honestly, at this point, like, so many characters come back to life that I'm not sure. I would not be surprised if she just came back to life in the next chapter or whatever. And then also informed everyone on the surface team about Tatsumaki's state, of her being unconscious, and of the urgency of actually helping her. And then she also healed Genos, which is extremely important because it saved him from exploding like a nuke and taking everybody out. She saved everybody by doing that. Except, like, you know, maybe Darkshine, he could have tanked it or whatever, but, like, most of the heroes would have died. Then she also heals Tank Top Master from the injuries that he received from Furugly and Gums, which is also a very big deal. And then she tries to heal Tatsumaki later, but that failed. And she also captures Psychos after the battle, which provides them with presumably, like, vital intel later down the line. Which, this is a weakened Psychos, but it's still Psychos, still a leader of the Monster Association, and Fubuki is the one that captured her afterwards, the one who noticed and the one who went out of the way to actually get her. And another thing, earlier on, speaking of Tank Top Master, she also enhanced him and helped him toss that building into the air, which helped everybody assist against Sairochi, or Jetrochi at that point, so she also has that assist going for her. So she saves everybody's lives, she enables multiple people to keep on fighting with her healing powers, and she provides some vital assists against Jetrochi and against Psychos later. So I do believe that Fubuki, especially for her tier of fighter, does so much, and she definitely deserves to be up here. Number 12, Bang or Silver Fang. Now this one, honestly he could very well go a lot lower, but there is one main thing that gets him this high, but we'll talk about everything else he does as well. So he kills some fodder, he wrecks Doess and rescues her hostages, he fights off Rover for a bit, and assists against Jetrochi, both alongside his brother, but then, this is what separates him from Bomb. He wrecks Gums and Ugly, and he saves Tank Top Master and Tatsumaki by doing so, which is a very big deal, because again, Tatsumaki, like the biggest heavy hitter of the association, and Tank Top Master, who also goes on to do many assists later. He also assists against Black S, and he keeps Garo occupied for a while. And this is the most important thing. He knocks Garo back into his senses. He's probably the only one that could really get to Garo at this point, like in terms of like getting him to listen to his heart and whatnot, like that whole narrative. So imagine if Garo was still feral in this arc, and he just attacked everybody and killed a bunch of heroes. Bang technically prevented a lot from happening by just waking him up, so I do believe that Bang also deserves to be in this vital tier because pretty much the entire like ending of the arc is carried on his shoulders by him waking Garo up. Number 11, just short of the top 10, King. King interrupted Amai's beef with the S-Class before the raid, saving relations. He saved Tario and got him out of the Monster Association base. He killed the monster via fear in the process. He kept Tario safe throughout the Sairochi madness. He escorted him to safety fully. He came back with Metal Bat to the battlefield. He rescued everyone from Black and Golden S and Homeless Emperor and Evil Ocean Water, or Natural Water, and he stalled them long enough for Garo to rush in. An absolutely legendary chapter of comedy, I will say that. That was one of the best times I've had in reading a manga in terms of comedy. Then he also instructed Tank Top Master not to throw everyone when that ship was coming at them, and you know, they would have died if King didn't see Saitama in that instance and tell them all to stop because Saitama had it handled, so that's also something pretty big. And then he also protected the Psychic Sisters from Cosmic Garo, which kind of a wholesome moment actually, like he covers them as best as he can, he tries to keep them safe from the radiation even though it's all in vain, and he keeps his head high, he keeps his head up while everybody else is collapsing and dying around him. The only other person to hold his own in the radiation for this long was Flashy Flash, who's specifically conditioned as a ninja to withstand a bunch of bad circumstances, so King the Goat for that. And then also at the very end of the arc, he protects Garo from everyone at the end, and he keeps Tario's hopes alive by letting Garo escape at the end. So I do believe that King, especially considering he has no powers, puts in a ton of work, and I do think that he could also go into the top 10, but I will say that I do believe that there are definitely a few characters that do more than him, so he's just short of the top 10. Now speaking of number 10, Blast. a character who is barely in this arc at all, but like begrudgingly I have to rank him this high, because first of all he got Saitama and Flashy Flash to the surface, immediately extremely helpful. He also held off Cosmic Garo for a bit, and this is the big thing, he saved the Earth from getting annihilated by Saitama and Garo. The only reason the Earth survived that ordeal is because he teleported them out of the Earth into the atmosphere, and then also his team went on to assist him, so I mean yeah, the Earth just kinda dies if he's not around, and granted Saitama probably would have just reversed time again, but it's still saving the planet, you know, like begrudgingly I have to put Blast this high. Number 9, Pigod. I bet that a lot of people weren't expecting this, but also a lot of people were, because there definitely are a bunch of people who are aware of how much of a Giga Chad Pigod is in this arc. So what he does is kills a bunch of fodder, occupies Gums, he also protects Child Emperor from falling debris on the surface, he protected Iain and the Nariki squad during Tatsumaki's base lift, he swallowed them all up and saved all their lives pretty much, so that's already like 9 lives there, and then he saved Tank Top Master from Gums on several occasions, you know, by shoving him and all that. Then he got Nariki's squad out of the battlefield with Tank Top Master. Then he returned and helped heal Tank Top Master with Fubuki by giving him his fat, which sounds weird. Then he recovered by eating Gums. Then he got all the remaining heroes out of a flood post-Sage fight, which is a big deal cause Tatsumaki, Child Emperor, Darkshine, King, everybody was there. And they all might have drowned if it wasn't for Pigod. Pigod ran in and he saved everybody's asses there. So, if that wasn't enough Giga Chad for you, he comes back after the arc, being the only one aware enough to do so, and tracks down where evil natural water is, just from a suspicion that he's gonna be still around because he's difficult to kill, and finishes him off, preventing him from becoming a problem in the future. That's Giga Chad energy right there. Like, he's smart, he's kind, he does all these things for everybody in this arc. He also takes care to like bring one of the Nariki squad guys' severed arm with him as well, out of the battlefield so we can be reattached later. Man, like, Pigod is a Chad. Like, stop sleeping on my man. Like, he's very, very helpful in this arc. He was vital. He saved everybody on numerous occasions. Now number 8, another character who is extremely downplayed in both his contributions to this arc and his power level, Genos, Demon Cyborg. So first of all, he saves Sekengar and Waganma from G5, he saves Tario and King from Sairochi's roots. They were about to get devoured there, but he saved them. Technically it was King's luck that forced him to do so, but still. He saved Tatsumaki from Sairochi and assisted her all throughout that battle until she could focus on the battle, which is huge, because without Genos, Tatsumaki literally would have died because she was dragged down by all the other heroes still remaining. So honestly, she could not have gone all out. I don't know, like, she either would have had to just sacrifice everyone and go guns blazing and kill everyone to kill Sairochi, or she would have had to just lay down and die if it wasn't for Genos coming in. So, I mean, what do you want me to say? Like, Genos in that battle was complete Giga Chad mode, and then later he also protects Tatsumaki from Jetrochi when she tries to shoot her out of the sky. When Tatsumaki is unconscious, Genos comes in and shoots the beam down, saves her, and then assists against Jetrochi even further. Together with Drive Knight, they deal a bunch of damage, assists against Gums and blasts his insides out paws, assists against Black Ass, fights until all his limbs are gone. He also gets Tank Top Master to Fubuki, helping her heal him, and then he also protects Tatsumaki from Black Ass, like literally without limbs. He's still trying to drag her out of the danger zone and like shielding her with everything he's got, like, man. Like, that's Giga Chad. And you know what's even better? He tries to stand up to Cosmic Garo, and he does! And he succeeds because he provides a distraction for Blast to start his assault on Garo and get that first combo in. Literally. Saves King and Tario, saves Waganma, Sekengar, saves Tatsumaki numerous times, saves everyone by being vital in the fight against Sairochi, and then he assists against Gums, saves Tank Top Master, assists against Black Ass, assists against Cosmic Gar, like, brother, like, honestly, move Genos up into the carry the team tier. I don't care. Move him up a tier into the carry the team tier. He's not the top of the vital tier, he's the bottom of carry the team. Like, that's the final tier we have, and we're getting to it right now. Genos is on here, he did so much. But moving up to number 7, God. Now, he's a weird one, because he does very few things, but like everything he does is vital. He made Homeless Emperor before the battle, which technically isn't part of the raid, but it's still something to consider that the Monster Association wouldn't have had one of its better assets if God wasn't around. He also gave Psychos and Orochi a means to fight Tatsumaki, which is vital, because Orochi carried for a while. He killed Homeless Emperor, which is kinda bad, but okay, this is where we get into the weird stuff. So, you know when Flash and Saitama like go into his dimension, spend a very short amount of time there, and get immediately teleported out, but they appear like way later when the battle on the surface is basically already over and Platinum S is already there? God's dimension is specifically stated to dilute time, so like it seemed that very little time passed for them, but in actuality a bunch of time passed. So, because of this, God technically stalled Saitama and Flash for a while, and prevented them from getting to the surface way earlier than they did. Which is a very big deal, I don't really have to explain it. And then, he creates Cosmic Garo. Like, that's pretty self-explanatory. He creates the final boss of the arc, like, God kinda has to be there. Now moving up to number 6, Black S. Carried the team, like, he carried the surface battle on his back, like, his back must have been hurting afterwards. He bodied Atomic, he held off the entire S-Class, putting multiple of them out of commission like Genos and Tatsumaki, and as Golden S, he dealt the final blow to Darkshine. He friendly fired Ugly, which, okay, but then he made up for it by protecting Homeless Emperor from Atomic Samurai, and as Platinum S, he took out most of the remaining heroes, even if none of them were really a threat at that point anymore, like Puri Prisoner, Atomic, Iain, Child Emperor, but he did take all of them out, and he took out Flashy Flash, which is huge, and he forced Garo to evolve. So Black S, I mean, he basically carried the surface battle, like alongside Vomited Fear Ugly, they both carried the surface battle, but Black S carried way harder, let's be honest. Like, he was the main villain for a good minute there. Number 5, controversial but necessary. Child Emperor. Now, before you get mad, let me list off this man's accomplishments, because this is a man, not a child. He located the monster's base. He provided everyone with the map and schematics for the base. He provided everyone with communication devices, which were vital, like informing Tatsumaki that the last hostage was rescued and, you know, that whole thing, which led to her actually being able to go all out finally. And then, he also basically formulated the entire plan of action and was the leader/strategist of the whole operation. He did every bit of planning there before the operation. He planned out the routes, he planned out everything. He did omit Silverfang from the operation, which is bad, but here's the funny thing. He spent so much time carrying the team before the battle that he went into the raid sleep deprived from all the carrying that he was doing. Literally, he says it himself, he's not gonna sleep before the raid because he has to do so much carrying. He has to find all this, he has to organize all this, he has to create these communication devices, he has to create a map, he has to do everything. Even Zombie-Man is like, dude, sorry man that all of us adults can't handle what you can. You 10-year-old kid, you're more useful than any of us. That's basically what he says. Like, sorry we all have to rely on you all the time. And then, while sleep deprived, again, remember, sleep deprived and exhausted, he kills a bunch of fodder, he saves Waganma, he beats Phoenix Man with an assist from Saitama, which is vital because Phoenix Man's ability to keep evolving would have given a lot of the S-Class a very rough time. He safely escorts Waganma to the surface, he goes back in, he saves the disciples from Evil Natural Water, he fights off Evil Natural Water with a few gadgets remaining. Like seriously, Child Emperor, sleep deprived, while at like 1% gadgets remaining, still fights off a cadre temporarily. Ultimately he gets overwhelmed, but still. He helps the S-Class heroes on the surface organize, and he tries to warn them about the emerging cadres, but kinda fails to do so. And then he also tries to come up with a plan against Platinum S, while sleep deprived and sugar deprived and fatigued, and my throat is already hurting from all this talking, but whatever. Like, this list of accomplishments for like a 10-year-old kid, like, come on, like, he carried the team. Like, out of all the S-Class, he's the second most useful by a mile. Like, he did everything. He did all the planning, all the preparations, all the logistics. I mean, what do you want me to say? Like, stop sleeping on Child Emperor, man. Stop sleeping on him. He's one of the chadliest people in the S-Class. Now, number 4 and 3 at the same time, I can do both. Orochi and Psychos. Now, at first, Orochi kinda just dies to Saitama, which isn't good, but then he saves Psychos from getting obliterated by Tatsumaki. He provides Psychos with a means to combat Tatsumaki by fusing with her. He provides a sacrifice for clown centipede, I guess. He ends up fatiguing Tatsumaki greatly as Psycho Sorochi, and he takes many S-Class heroes to deal the final blows. And with Psychos, she organized the entire Monster Association, created matchups like Black S vs Atomic Samurai to help the monster's odds. She stalled Tatsumaki via Gyoro, she stalled Tatsumaki as herself, and heavily fatigued and injured Tatsumaki as Sairochi. Now, on paper, they definitely do seem like they did less than a lot of the people that we talked about, like Child Emperor with his massive list of accomplishments, but they are solely responsible for taking Tatsumaki out of the battle, let's be honest. They took Tatsumaki to the brink, and that is what saved all the other monsters, because, let's be honest, if Tatsumaki went in there with full power, full, like, healthy, she just one-shots all the cadres at the same time, like, let's not play around. So, the fact that they actually did drain her this much just does help their case a ton. Like, they basically destroyed the Heroes Ace against the Monster Association, and if it wasn't for Saitama and Garo, the Hero Association would have lost solely because of Psycho Sorochi's existence. Because again, this one thing of taking Tatsumaki out of the battle just, like, saved the monsters completely. And again, they did do more stuff, like, especially Psychos. Like, she created all the bad matchups, she stalled Tatsumaki just in general, preventing her from going around one-shotting cadres and all that. So yeah, I do believe that they definitely do deserve to be very high on the list, and they definitely carry their team the hardest, alongside Black S. Number 2, Tatsumaki. Pretty self-explanatory. Killed Evil Eye, killed a bunch of fodder, killed Gyoro, bodied Psychos, got the information about another hostage, Tario, from Psychos, got stalled by Orochi, got dragged down by everyone because she couldn't go all out. Like, seriously, she could have just gone in there all alone and just killed everyone in 5 seconds, but you know, the hostage thing and all that, everybody just dragged her down. Lifted the entire Monster Association base while protecting everyone, in the process saving Atomic Samurai, Pegadel, Child Emperor from their respective cadre opponents because they all were about to die. Made sure to keep everyone safe from Psycho Sorochi, protected Genos from Sairochi, dismantled Sairochi, and destroyed her roots, by extension destroying most of the remaining monsters underground as well. All the fodder monsters she killed via that surface twist, or, you know, silly twist, whatever you want to call it. Single-handedly saved everyone by destroying Psycho Sorochi, because if Psycho Sorochi survived, she would have killed everyone. Trapped Jet Orochi, preventing him from escaping in the giant barrier. Finished off Orochi, assisted Pigad and tanked up Master against Ugly, saved Nariki's squad from Ugly, assisted Black S, and fought until she couldn't fight no more. And she also refused a deal from God, which, if she would have taken it, let's be honest, the series might have actually ended unironically. I think she might actually kill Saitama, but that's a topic for another day completely. That's a hot take kind of half right there, like that's... Okay, maybe a topic for another day. Cosmic Tatsumaki, how strong would that monstrosity have been, but... Just remember, Garo went from his human self, like basically maybe a spiral in terms of like power, to God. So like imagine Tatsumaki going through that kind of buff. Like, just imagine. I mean, what else is there to say? Like, honestly, Tatsumaki probably carried the weight of like 10 planets via all the carrying she did in this arc. Like, without her, the heroes would have unquestionably lost. Like, no debate there. If it wasn't for number 1, Saitama. He took out some fodder, he saved Child Emperor from Phoenix Man, took out the Monster King, took out Evil Ocean Water, and took out Garo in his monster form, and took out Cosmic Garo, and saved everyone via time travel plot ex machina. I mean, like, you can't really get much bigger than this, right? Like, he kills basically 3 of the biggest threats in the arc, and, yeah, also saves a bunch of people. Saves the planet, saves the freaking... all the stars he obliterated in the background, he saves all of those by traveling back in time. He saves the entire cast by traveling back in time. I mean, like, I don't have to explain it, you guys know why Saitama's number 1. So yeah, this is a very long video, but I do think it's sort of required to be long, because, you know, the topic itself is very long. And let me know what you think, let me know if you have any disagreements in the list, and I'm tired, I've been speaking for far too long, and with nothing else to say, I wish you a great rest of the day. Goodbye.